Welcome to Mickey, Marvel, and More, Disney news, commentary, and opinion. From theme parks to Thanos and from Skywalker to Skyliner, my family and I will discuss it all. So let's go!
Please stand clear of the doors. Por favor, manténganse alejado de las puertas.
Hello, Mark here, and welcome to another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Thank you so much for joining my family and I on our podcast journey. This week, Laura and I are going to sit down in the family chat and talk about a topic we haven't discussed much here on the Mickey, Marvel, and More show. The Disney Cruise Line, the best way to experience giant turkey legs at sea. Until recently, the only cruises we had ever taken were Disney Cruise Line cruises. But this spring, my family and I took a European cruise with Royal Caribbean. Well, now that we've had a different experience, we're going to sit down and talk about the differences, and maybe we can help you make a more informed decision. But before we get to that, how about a little news from in and around the Disneyverse?
Monkeys. You don't understand.
I do. I understood that reference.
2 MCU trailers dropped this week for very high-profile projects. One for the Disney Plus series Agatha All Along, and the other one for the MCU movie Captain America Brave New World. The Agatha trailer shows that Agatha, played by Kathryn Hahn, has apparently lost her powers due to the final battle in the Disney Plus show WandaVision, and is now somehow a police detective? But as we know, due to our experience with WandaVision, with magic, looks can be very deceiving. The trailer also seems to confirm that Wanda Maximoff is perhaps in fact dead, something that fans have been speculating about since the ending of the MCU movie Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, because pictures or it didn't happen, right? But a very wise man once told me, in comic books, no one ever really dies. Moving along to the Captain America Brave New World trailer, it looks like the movie picks up not long after the conclusion of the Disney Plus series Falcon and the Winter Soldier. General Thaddeus E. Thunderbolt Ross, now played by movie franchise galore veteran Harrison Ford since William Hurt passed away, is now the President of the United States. And Ross is now trying to officially bring Captain America, played by Anthony Mackie, into the United States military. The trailer is flashy and action-packed and looks like it might be a lot of fun. But anyone who's been following the production of this film knows that it's gone through rewrites and reshoots galore, and it's been delayed and shuffled around the Marvel schedule for a couple of years now. We can only hope that it isn't a hacked-up Frankenstein of a film that can sometimes happen with these kind of problems in production schedules. The one thing that I feel both of these trailers has done right is that they seem not to be revealing much of anything, a problem that has plagued a lot of modern MCU trailers lately. But we'll see how much these trailers did or did not reveal when the 2 projects hit the big and small screen. Agatha All Along is set to be released on Disney Plus around the Halloween season this year, and Captain America Brave New World will be released in theaters on February 14th, 2025. Hey, it looks like that Valentine's Day date night for Laura and I is already planned. Our family has enjoyed the LEGO and Star Wars partnership since 1999. We've played all the LEGO Star Wars, Indiana Jones, and Marvel LEGO games, and enjoyed many of the animated shows over the years. And it looks like they're going to do it all over again with a new project called LEGO Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy. It's an adventure in our favorite galaxy far, far away, where the good guys are bad, the bad guys are good, and the fate of the entire galaxy depends on a new hero who needs to put all the pieces back together. It's going to be a 4-piece animated special. You catch that? 4-piece because Lego pieces? Okay. It's going to be a 4-piece animated special coming to Disney Plus on September 13th. The best part of this whole thing is that fans may finally get what they have always wanted. Darth Jar Jar. Misa! I can only hope that this also leads to a new LEGO Star Wars video game, because flying a TIE X-Wing fighter and a Dark Millennium Falcon looks like a lot of fun. Disney Cruise Line is expanding the fleet. Not only will the Disney Treasure start sailing in December of this year, as well as the Disney Destiny starting to cruise in 2025, but they've also given us more details about the Disney Adventure based in Singapore. Oh, and one more little thing. Another new ship is in the works. It was just announced that the Disney Cruise Line, in partnership with the Oriental Land Company, which owns and operates the Tokyo Disney Resort, is building a brand new ship. This ship will offer year-round cruises to Japan and is expected to start sailing in 2029, about 5 years from now. The ship will be a sister ship to the Disney Wish and part of the Triton class of ships. So, if my math is correct, that will bring the Disney Cruise Line ship total to 9 amazing ships. Be sure to check out the show notes for the article about all the details about all of this great DCL news. This year, we took our first non-Disney cruise. We've taken many Disney cruises in the past, but this year we took a Royal Caribbean cruise, primarily because it had the itinerary we wanted at the time of year we wanted to go. Because we've taken so many Disney cruises in the past, we couldn't help but compare Royal Caribbean and Disney, and then it led to the question, is a Disney cruise worth it? I'm going to bring my wife Laura in for the family chat, and we're going to discuss this.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, we are going to discuss it. I'm excited about this.
Okay, so we're going to start with the 800-pound gorilla in the room that's wearing a T-shirt covered in dollar signs. The first obvious difference, price.
Yeah, and that's a big one. We'll circle back to this, but basically we determined that a Disney cruise is more than double the price of a Royal Caribbean cruise. So Royal Caribbean definitely has the advantage there.
Is it always double, or was it just double because we were overseas this time?
I mean, it's hard to say because I didn't take the time to actually do an exact apples to apples comparison, but for a cruise of similar length of time, similar time of year, and, just about a year in between, it was more than double. So giving Royal Caribbean the benefit of the doubt, or maybe giving Disney the benefit of the doubt, let's just call it double, just to make it even.
I think that's probably fair. Next topic we're going to talk about is the cabins. So what are your opinions on the cabins, Disney versus Royal?
So I felt like we did have a real apples to apples comparison there because we got the exact same room type on Royal Caribbean that we typically get with Disney, which is a 1-bedroom balcony room. I felt like the rooms were of similar size, similar setup. I felt like the comfort level of the room was very similar. I felt like the balcony was exactly the same. So in my opinion, I felt like the rooms were exactly the same.
Yeah, I'm going to mostly agree with that statement. I think that this is the first time we've ever done a cruise where we have 2 cabins side by side. So we were able to eventually open the door in the balcony. So we ended up having a huge balcony with both rooms. But the room itself on the inside, I think when you look at the stats, Disney's square inch is bigger than Royal Caribbean, but I think it's how they use the space that makes the difference. Mm-hmm. The only thing that I will give the edge to Disney on, I love having the double bathroom space on the Disney cruise ship, because Royal Caribbean had, your toilet and the shower and the sink in one room, which is fine. But when you've got 3 or 4 people trying to get ready, it's nice to have the toilet sink room and then the sink shower room. Mm-hmm. Now, I think ultimately what that meant is those 2 rooms are slightly smaller because they're taking up sort of the same amount of real estate.
Right.
But I give the edge to Disney on that because I think that is really important when you've got more than a couple of people trying to get ready. What do you think?
Well, I'll say agree to disagree on that.
Okay.
I mean, sure, it's nice to have a split bathroom, but I enjoyed the extra space in the single bathroom that we had on Royal Caribbean.
That's true.
And I felt like not having the split bathroom wasn't that much of a disadvantage, if at all. So I'm going to call the rooms between Royal Caribbean and Disney a draw. I think you're giving the edge to Disney.
I'm
on
going to
this
give
one.
the edge to Disney. I just think it's because when you've got, 3 or 4 people that are trying to maintain everything, that's what you need. So next topic, which is a big one for most people that cruise, dining. That is the next big point to talk about. So first of all, let's talk about main dining on both ships.
Sure. And I think dining is where I see a pretty big difference between the two cruise lines.
Agree.
So in main dining, Disney has 3 different main dining rooms. And the way Disney works, it's called rotational dining. And so you eat at a different main dining every night for your dinner. Your serving staff travels with you from dining room to dining room. And there is a different theme, different experience in each dining room that you are in. Usually there is something happening around you in the particular dining room that you're eating in that night. Royal Caribbean, in contrast, has essentially one main dining room, and you eat same dining room, same table with your same wait staff every night, assuming that you do it right.
Yeah, long story short, we didn't understand how Royal Caribbean did it, and we did it wrong. Apparently, there was a special entrance for people that have a red. What was the deal? It was
Well, they were really pushing this new concept
Right.
called My Time Dining.
correct.
Where you could theoretically show up at the main dining room anytime during their dining hours from 5:30 to 8 o'clock. You didn't necessarily have to stick with the early dinner seating, later dinner seating. You could show up anytime and they would give you next available table. And the downside was you may not necessarily be eating with your staff. So because Royal Caribbean kept pushing that to us and telling us you need to make a reservation for My Time Dining, we were thoroughly confused about the fact that we actually had a set table with a set dining staff.
We had a set dining time. I believe our time was 8:30 was our dining seating, and they were really pushing the My Time Dining. So we chose My Time dining times based on when we thought we would be back from excursions.
Right.
We thought that would be an advantage. Turns out we were back in plenty of time every day. But since we had the My Time dining reservation that they really sort of forced on you, and this was like, I think, their first full year of doing it. You got in this big line and then you waited. And what we really needed to do was every night, 8:30, enter through the side door that's marked, but it was marked very unclearly, and it was a very small sign.
Right. The entrance for the My Time Dining was much more centrally located and was much more visible. We didn't even see the actual entrance to the dining room for the first 4 days of the cruise. It wasn't until our serving team actually called us
Right, in the room.
in our cabin and said, "Why haven't you guys been coming to dinner?"
And we felt awful.
Oh, yeah. So once we finally made our way to the table and then they physically showed us where the entrance to the dining room is, then we figured it out. But should it be so difficult to figure out where you're eating every night?
It should have been more clear because there was just one entrance area and they had 2 check-in lines. What they should have done was have the main line for registered seating time for the 7:30, 8:30, or I think it was 6:30, 8:30 times, and the other side for walk-ups and My Time Dining, but they didn't make that clear.
Right. I'll say the confusion about how the dining room worked was probably a knock on Royal Caribbean
I
in
think
my
so,
mind.
because they didn't make it clear.
Right. I'll also say that the dining experience and the food quality probably was better on our Disney cruises than it was on Royal Caribbean. Don't get me wrong, the serving staff was very nice.
They were.
And the food was very good. But I will say on the Disney cruise, the serving staff has always been outstanding.
Yes.
And the food quality has always been outstanding.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a meal on a Disney cruise ship that there wasn't something about it I liked. And the other thing I'll say for main dining, and then we'll move on, Main dining on the Disney ship, especially now with the new ships they've constructed and the new ships that are now sailing, they have dinner shows basically. Because one of them has that they still have the Frozen interactive thing in the middle. The other one has Ant-Man and the Wasp going on in the middle. Plus, the other ships have Animator's Palette where it starts in black and white, and as the meal progresses, you do a drawing. There's an animation on the wall, and the whole 9 yards. So I think main dining on the Disney ship is way better in presentation and food. So we're now going to step up to
Buffet dining.
the buffet dining. So what do we think?
I think they were very similar on both.
Agreed.
I don't think there's really any more to be said about it. They were very similar. I'd call that a draw.
Yeah, I would say, breakfast, lunch, dinner, all good. And buffets are buffets. And the quality of the food was fine.
So I'd say the next category is let's talk about the upcharge restaurants that are on both ships.
Correct. So on a Disney cruise ship, you've got your main dining, and then they've got upscale restaurants. And depending on which ship you're on, there could be one or two. You do those in advance, and it varies for what the cost is. It can be as much as $60 a person. Sometimes it's a little less than that. And some of the restaurants, I think, do both of the restaurants not allow children?
I think that's right.
I think that's part of the plus. And on the Royal Caribbean ships, they have, at least on the one we were on, they had 4.
Yes.
Which were different. They had an Italian, they had a sushi, they had a steak, and there was one, then the Alice in Wonderland themed one, which was really awesome. That was the best meal we had on the entire cruise. So how do you compare those? What do you think?
So the Disney upcharge restaurants are definitely what I would call fine dining.
Sure.
We didn't eat at all of the Royal Caribbean upcharge restaurants, but I like the fact that they each had a different theme to them. So I like that. The Royal Caribbean upcharge restaurant that we went to was an amazing experience, and like you said, it was our best meal of the trip.
It very much was.
So I would probably call the upcharge restaurants a draw in terms of food quality, presentation. Maybe give the edge to Royal Caribbean because they had more to choose from, 4 restaurants as opposed to 1 or 2 on a Disney ship.
Okay. I think I agree with that. No, I agree. I agree with that.
Now, here's an interesting thought. We talked about whether or not, if you wanted to get your best dining experience possible, if you took a Royal Caribbean cruise and you did the upcharge dining for every meal or almost every meal, which it seems to me would probably put your food quality at Disney main dining and probably Disney upscale dining on par.
I would say it'd be
with
pretty
them.
close.
Yeah. The cost that you would pay extra to do upcharge dining every night, that still would put you under the price of a Disney cruise.
Yeah.
If you did Royal Caribbean and you did upcharge dining every single night.
So let's move on to amenities. And we're going to start with first the amenities that most people care about on a cruise ship, the pools.
So Royal Caribbean had a couple of nice features with their pools that Disney does not have that I really appreciated. Royal Caribbean had an outdoor pool, but then they also had an indoor pool. And then they had a separate indoor adults only pool that was part of a solarium area.
Right.
That was really more of an adults only complete area that also had a pool in it.
It was kind of like a mini resort because they had a bar and they had several hot tubs. They had a couple of little infinity pools, and then they had their main pool, and then they had seating all along the solarium. And it was looking out over, was that at the bow of the ship? I think it was at the front of the ship. And it was a really great view. And then they had this giant swing you could set on, and no kids are allowed. And it was really nice in there. The Disney Cruise line has family pool, kids pool, and adult pool, but they're all outdoors. And I have found that particularly when we were over in Europe, it's colder there. And having an indoor pool is a huge, huge plus. And the indoor pool area on the Royal ship, it had all kinds of stuff. It had a little hot tub. It had a little play area for the kids. It had a pool. It also had a bar. Of course, cruise ship, there's a bar every place they can put one. But I would, in my opinion, now Disney does have their water rides, which I think adds something to it. They have the first water coaster at sea, which they just started, which I think is themed to the Incredibles. I can't remember. No, it's the Mickey cartoon, the new Mickey cartoons. Okay. Yeah. So I'm going to say that just because of the indoor pools, I give the edge to Royal. What about the overall look of the ships?
Right. So I think I have to give that one to Disney.
Yes.
The Disney cruise ships have the styling of a classic luxury liner. They're so pretty.
That's what they were going for.
Yes. So in terms of overall look of the outside of the ship, I think Disney is definitely prettier than any other cruise ship that's on the seas.
They have the same paint scheme as like the Titanic or any of those sort of classic cruise lines.
Right. Then I'd say the interior of the ship, again, the overall look. I think Disney, I'd also give the edge to them. It's just so pretty on every cruise ship we've been on.
Very well appointed.
And of course, Disney theming everywhere, which if you're a Disney fan at all, like we are, that just adds that little bit of extra magic that you don't get on any other cruise line.
All right. So let's talk about something else that people enjoy on cruise ships, bars.
Yeah. So both cruise lines have themed bars, which is pretty standard. I'll say that Disney's bars have more theming, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
They really stick with a theme in a bar, all the way from the decor to the menu, and
seating.
The seating. I mean, they really stick with a theme hard. Disney also has kind of a nice feature where their bars are sort of grouped in one area.
Yes.
And so
it's like a district.
It is. It's a little bar district, which also kind of makes it fun if you are out for the evening.
It's
and
like you're going clubbing.
Okay.
No? Okay.
No. In contrast with Royal Caribbean, they had themed bars as well. I would say the theming was pretty much limited to stuff on the walls.
Yeah.
It was fairly light theming, I'd say. And the bars were spread out throughout the cruise ship. So, you didn't always know where they were. You wouldn't always come across them. So there were some of the bars that we didn't even come across until much later in our cruise, simply because we didn't know they were there.
With the new Disney cruise ships, even with their older ones, they had ones that were themed with these walls that would change images and stuff to look like you were in a big city. But now they've got a Star Wars bar.
Yeah.
And now they've got a Haunted Mansion bar.
Yes.
And now they've got an Adventures bar.
Yeah.
That I think is going to be based around the Jungle Cruise. So I'm going to say that I'm going to give the bars to Disney.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to get to a very mundane topic, but one that's important if you're taking a super long cruise. Like we did when we were over in the UK in 2016. We were there for almost 2 weeks. Laundry.
Yeah. So Disney, to its credit, has a self-service laundry room on most of their cruise ships.
Right.
Which is very convenient. I mean, nobody wants to do laundry on their cruise.
Of course not.
But it is nice to be able to go at your convenience and throw a load of laundry in halfway through the trip so that you aren't toting around 2 weeks worth of clothing or re-wearing things that maybe you shouldn't be re-wearing.
Right. For many reasons.
Right. Royal Caribbean, on the other hand, does not have self-service laundry. And so if you want something washed while you are on the cruise ship, you have to set it out for laundry service. Of course, laundry service is a lot more expensive than self-service.
Did they do dry cleaning, I think, too?
They did dry cleaning as well on both ships, on both cruise lines.
And you had an experience this time. Your first cement pond wash. You washed some things in the sink.
It's called hand washing, and it's not like it's some kind of a redneck thing. Lots of people do it when they travel.
I know, but I just felt like the Beverly Hillbillies where we were doing we're going to do our laundry. Granny's going to do it in the cement pond.
Who did the laundry?
We're moving on to entertainment now. So entertainment, let's talk about main stage entertainment, RC versus DCL.
So Disney has main stage entertainment hands down.
Not a
hands
question.
down the winner. I mean, Disney is known for their live entertainment. So it's not surprising that they have a main stage show every night. At least a couple of them during the length of a cruise are actually a musical. Shortened, usually it's about an hour or 90 minutes, but it's a musical with all of the stage craft and production values and top-notch singers and dancers that you would expect from a Disney production. They also bring in other top talent that again is used to working a large venue, and there was a really wonderful either Broadway quality or live stage show.
The buckets and boards guys.
That's right. Top quality entertainment every night. Royal Caribbean, actually, I was shocked. They did not have a main stage show every night.
They didn't.
It was only a few nights of the cruise. And the other thing that was frustrating about Royal Caribbean
is the big one.
is sometimes they would schedule the show times that would conflict with dinner.
Yep.
So there was not a way for you, particularly if you had a later dinner seating time, to be able to see the show.
Yep.
Because they would have one performance at like 7:00.
And that was it.
And that
there
was
was
it.
no late night.
Yeah. Yeah. A little bit of a head scratcher there. What about bar entertainment, the smaller venues?
I think that in general, the Disney cruise ship has that one as well. We had a really nice piano bar guy on the Royal ship. There was a singer who played guitar and did music in one of the bars, but just your standard sort of bar singing. But it seems like on the Disney cruise ship, they had unique and different types of singers. Like we saw the Irish sisters that weren't actually Irish. What was the name of their group?
The Gothard Sisters.
The Gothard Sisters. They were in the Irish pub, and it was really entertaining. So what do you think? You giving the edge to...
I agree. I give it to Disney. I agree with you. Their entertainment was more unique. Royal Caribbean seemed to rely a lot on the solo singer player, which is fine to do for a bar, but they seem to do it most of their locations. Yeah,
so that one definitely goes to Disney. Now this one will probably come as no surprise to anybody, but the category of kids, who does it better?
Yeah, Disney definitely has that one hands down
no
too.
question.
And so definitely when our kids were younger, the Disney cruise activities for kids were amazing. Their kids clubs are spectacular. Their kids activities, amazing. The employees that work there, the cast members that are part of the kids club, outstanding. And of course, there's Disney characters everywhere.
Well, sure. And now they've got the Marvel universe in one of the labs and the Star Wars universe in one of the labs. And they had different categories depending on age. They had a nursery, which you could, if you had a little guy that you had to pay for, but there was an option for nursery so the adults could get a night out for dinner. And then you had your grade school, middle school area for the middle-sized kids. And then you had the teen club. And all of these clubs were active. And this is the important part to point out before we get to the Royal. They were active all day long. There were activities going on from 8 a.m. until almost limitless at night, till almost 10 or 11. And they would actually feed the kids within the club. So if they were having a party or fun and they didn't want to go to have dinner with everybody else, they could eat in the kids club. And what do we think about Royal Caribbean's kids offerings?
Well, I'll say this. To be fair, we didn't really check out the offerings for younger kids because we didn't have any younger kids on this trip, but I can't imagine that they surpassed what Disney offers because Disney is, I think, top of the line there. Yeah, it was a little disappointing. They did have a teen club on the Royal Caribbean cruise ship, but it seemed to have very limited hours.
Yep.
And often when we would go by there, we would see a kid or a teen with parents kind of scratching their heads and trying to figure out when the teen club was open because it never seemed to be open.
It was like, it's like Caddy Day at the pool from 1 to 1:15 from Caddyshack.
Right. So, I mean, I think definitely if you have older kids, Disney is not going to be much of a pickup for you there. But I also don't think Royal Caribbean had much to offer for the older ages either.
So we're going to move on to pretty much our last category, and we call it parties, and it's like the away sailing on the main deck or other parties on the main deck. And what do we think about this one?
So I also think Disney probably has it in the bag for this category.
100%.
They have a pretty fun sail away party on every cruise we've been on.
Yep.
Royal Caribbean didn't have one at all.
There was music playing, but there was no announcement. There was no big fanfare. And of course, Disney has the much better boat horn too.
Right. Disney also has their pirate night with a special show and party up on the deck. Nothing like that on Royal Caribbean at any night in the cruise.
They also have Star Wars nights at sea, and they have Marvel nights at sea.
Right.
And they have the only fireworks show at sea that any cruise ship has. Disney has fireworks at sea.
Right. Now, Royal Caribbean did have some parties, but none of them were deck parties. They were all parties that they had sort of in their large venue on the cruise ship. All of them happened, I'd say, late night. So starting at 9 or 10 o'clock.
Yes.
We actually didn't go to any of them.
No.
They were just a little too late for us.
Well, yeah, because we were so busy during the day, we were pretty tired.
Right. So, they may have been a really great party, but when you're on a cruise ship, you kind of want to have a party up on the deck. That's kind of special. I don't know that going to the silent disco in the same room where you eat your lunch buffet has exactly the same effect,
It does not have the same effect. Before we get too far away from parties and entertainment, two other things I wanted to mention that we didn't. Disney cruise ships have a movie theater.
Yeah.
Where they show movies all day and night. And both ships have movie theater screens at their pool, but it seems like the Disney ship actually shows movies. There were a lot of YouTube clips and TikTok clips and cute pet clips going on, but they didn't really have too many like motion picture events.
You're right. The Disney cruise ship has movies playing at the pool all day long.
And all night long.
Weather
depending.
And then they also have the indoor movie theater that plays movies at scheduled times.
And their first run films, it's not like they're all...
Right. Royal Caribbean would have one movie playing per evening at the pool, and that was it. So if you wanted to go to a movie, that was your only option. They did not play movies during the day.
And at night in the North Atlantic, it can sometimes be pretty cold.
Yeah, exactly.
So to wrap this up, and I think the answers may surprise, overall, who wins?
Well, I think as our listeners have heard, Disney wins in pretty much every category, which is not surprising. I mean, they're top of the line. But I think the larger question is, does that make up for the difference in price?
So what do we think about that? Is it worth it to spend all the money on the Disney cruise and have all these niceties, but it be super expensive, or have a little less niceties and save half your money?
Right. I think it depends on what you're wanting to get out of the cruise. I think if you want to go on a cruise for the purpose of enjoying the amenities on the ship, then Disney's worth it. If you are doing a cruise because you want to see other parts of the world and a cruise ship is a nice, fun way to get there, I think Royal Caribbean's the way to go.
Okay, fair enough. We'll leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
And we'll see you next time.
If you are standing, please hold on to the handrails and stay clear of the doors. The monorail will depart momentarily. Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us for another episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. Now, before we sail out of here, oh, did you see what I did there? Sail. That's right, callback humor. A big thank you to my wife, Laura, who always says that I'm seeking attention. I have no idea what gives her that idea. But thank you for sitting down with us in the family chat and discussing the pros and cons of the Disney Cruise Line versus Royal Caribbean. Also, before we get out of here, a quick programming note. We are going to miss our next episode drop due to our family summer vacation to Walt Disney World. But the good news is that the next episode that we do drop will be a Walt Disney World trip report. It will be an all hands on deck, full-fledged family chat. So stay tuned to your favorite podcasting app in 3 weeks instead of 2 for the next episode of Mickey, Marvel, and More. After listening to the show, why not check out the show notes for all the stories we talked about today, as well as links to all of our socials. And definitely check out the show notes this week so you don't miss out on the 2 new MCU trailers. And hey, if you have any thoughts, questions, ideas, or recommendations for good therapists, send us an email to Mickey, Marvel, and More, all one word, at gmail.com. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, my name is Mark, and this has been Mickey, Marvel, and More. If you didn't, my name is Wile E. Coyote, super genius. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Mud.
And remember, mud spelled backwards is dumb.
We'll see you next time.